Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of STMA, welcome to this week's virtual town hall meeting. We would like for this to be interactive, so if you have a question or something to share, you can enter it into the chat feature. The chat is located along the bottom of the screen and it will pop up in the participant panel. You can also raise your hand and ask your question live. The raise hand is located in the bottom right of the participant panel. Our moderator today is Keith Winter from the Fort Wayne Tincaps, and he is going to get us started.
All right, thank you, Kristen. Welcome everybody, and I'm sure we're going to have people coming on as we get into the afternoon. We're going to try to keep this right around 60 minutes. Last week, I know they had over 200 participants, and we're hoping that we have a good dialogue and good discussion here again today. Today's meeting is focused on the baseball segment of our industry, both at the professional and amateur levels. And the goal of this session is to obviously share information and to learn how everyone is adapting to what is and what will continue to be a vastly changed environment. Our panelists will offer their insights to what they are doing in terms of managing their fields and also how their staff and their organizations have been affected over the course of these last 6 weeks or so. And you, as Kristen said, your feedback is highly encouraged. You can type in your comments, or you can do the raise your hand thing, and we'll try to get to your questions. And also last week, there was some good chat dialogue that went back and forth, whether you spoke or not. It was just a way for people to engage, because a lot of people that are participating in this meeting know each other, and it's an opportunity to just catch up and utilize that chat format on this Zoom meeting. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our panelists to you. And we're going to try to have them speak in the same order that I introduced them to you. And I have a few questions that I'll start with. Then we'll get to some questions that have already been sent in, any other questions that you may have. First of all is Stephen Lord, CSFM. Steve is the head groundskeeper for the Cincinnati Reds at Great American Ballpark. Next is Matt Parrott. Matt is the Director of Field Operations for the Charlotte Knights at BB&T Ballpark in Charlotte, North Carolina. And our third panelist is Andy Ommen. Andy is the Sports Turf Manager of the McLean County Pony Baseball Facility, and that is in Bloomington, Illinois. So gentlemen, first of all, thanks for participating. And we do have several objectives that we'll try to get through here today. And this is a tough time, and we all are living through it, and we can't predict the future, but we hope that this discussion today will unfold some of the scenarios that might impact the sport of baseball as it's going to be happening over the course of the next months and the next years. And also the panelists or anyone that's participating in this meeting, we obviously don't have all the answers, but we do recognize that it's a great thing to share questions and concerns, and that will have an impact on how we move forward. As the moderator, what I'll try to do is offer some follow-up questions to try to dig in a little bit deeper as we get through this, and then summarize the questions that you are submitting. And again, that's highly encouraged for you to participate, whether that's by voice or by chat. That is the purpose of what a town hall meeting is all about. So gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started here with the first question. And Steve, will start with you, then Matt, and then Andy. So with the baseball season on hold now at all levels, give us a snapshot of your current labor situation and how that is affecting your work schedule.
So as far as our current situation here at GABP, full-time staff is myself and two full-time assistants. We also take care of 7 acres of turf over at our Reds Urban Youth Academy, which we have one groundskeeper there. The 4 of us are still gainfully employed. My second assistant, Krista Wallace, has been shifted out to the Youth Academy to kind of aid in some labor out there. So we're operating with 2 of us at each facility. My seasonal staff, which is numbers for game nights, is about 30 folks. They've all been put on hold until we're playing baseball again. Some of those 30 folks actually do provide some daytime hours with our group during the homestands. And so they're obviously missing out on that, although they've been all attached to seasonal unemployment draw for us, as well as our league sponsored and Reds provided relief fund. And then beyond that, I typically hire between 5 and 7 interns each year, and that's been canceled indefinitely, regardless of whether we play baseball or not this year. So for our current status, there's only 2 of us here at GABP, and then there's 2 of us out at our Reds Youth Academy. We're all working 40-hour weeks. We're not really doing weekends unless there's needs for watering or anything else. But we're working basically a schedule from 8 to 5 Monday through Friday.
Maddie?
So in Charlotte, we have definitely gone through some changes. Similar, like Steven said, when this initially hit, we typically hire between 20 and 25 hourly employees per season, mostly game day employees, but we do have the ability to use them on non-game days and during the day as well. Those 20 to 25 were pretty quickly put on, they were laid off. And then that left myself and my full-time salaried assistant. And as things kind of drug on, our organization went through a round of layoffs as well, in addition to our hourly employees, some full-time, a small portion of full-time employees, and one of those who was wrapped up in that was my assistant. So currently in Charlotte, we're a department of 1 from a field operations standpoint. Our offices have been closed since March the 12th, other than what's deemed essential, and that's about between our upper management and facility staff. I'm included in that, and that's a group of about 5 of us. So the same thing as Steven said, I'm basically still business as usual, working 35, 40 hours a week. But am having to work some weekends as well, just because, if it's not going to be baseball, it's going to be something that eventually is coming into this ballpark to help offset some revenue losses. So we're maintaining it as such.
I think I'm next. Is it, Keith? You're muted. There you are, Keith.
Go ahead. You're next, Andy.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. So from my standpoint, we are a nonprofit youth organization with absolutely 0 revenue coming in and 0 funds. We had spent all of our money up front getting ready for the season between my supplies for turf maintenance and then our uniforms for the kids. We started ordering for a concession stand when we got completely shut down. So we spend as little money as possible, and that includes mowing grass as well. So we've gone, normally have 8 to 9 high school, college kids that are on my staff. I myself am a volunteer, and we have a couple other guys that chip in now and again. So it's now basically down to the 3 or 4 of us showing up occasionally when we can and trying to keep the grass somewhat manageable until we can open up and generate some revenue through our concession stand more than anything, and some of our registrations. So we are bare bones approach right now as best as we can. Fortunately, I only live about a mile from the ballpark, so I run out there as often as I can and jump on a mower and try to keep weeds out of the infield and off the warning tracks and move from there.
Andy, unlike, Steve with the Reds and Matt with the Knights, professional baseball, where the funding mechanism is through the organization, where's your funding come from? So you said that you're bare bones, but where is most of the funding come for, whether that's to purchase or to do the work, whatever it may be?
Yeah, all our funding comes from our registration. So we have about 1,200 kids that play at our ballpark. So it's all our registration fees that come in from there. And then on top of that, our concession stand, which brings in 60 to 70,000 a year for us. So between all that, that's where our money comes from.
Okay.
I'll let you know about the academy.
Okay, next question, gentlemen. Most fields were ready to go because at the time of suspension of play, the big leagues were right on the verge of starting. Minor leagues, we were only a week or so away. Now with no play, how's that impacted your field in terms of cultural practices, especially Steve? You got a brand new surface that you put in late last fall, but what are you doing? What are you all doing now with the fact that there is no play on your facility?
So Keith, over here, we're still moving straight forward with our cultural practices, just as we would. We've aerated one time and sand top dressed a couple of times. We've verticut the field twice. You know, things went in pretty well in November, and we haven't had a too big of an uphill battle getting the place kind of rolled out and set up the way I want for this year. But yeah, those cultural practices take a lot longer when there's only two of us operating. You know, running the air fryer, running the top dresser. But the bigger issue, I would say, with things in and around the field that we've had that's been different to account for is, even with opening day being, I think we were like 14 days away when we went into lockdown here, any stadium projects, as far as we have a wall pad renovation or wall pad replacement going on, that was indefinitely stopped. We've just had them come back on site today for the first time in, I think, 45 days now to actually start working again on replacing our wall pads. We've had our netting projects are about the same way. And then, as well as any club areas and stuff that was being worked on in and around the ballpark, those projects basically went to a screeching halt for about the first 2 weeks, and are just now kind of really getting back to where they're seeing a timeline towards completion. Just like any other industry, they've been affected, you know, whether it's electricians doing work in the building or HVAC techs, anything like that. So we've had more snags, I would say, this spring take place off the field within the stadium than we have had on the field. On the field, it is just, you know, myself and one other guy, and we're kind of we're pretty minimal maintenance mode. So other than those cultural practices, we are we're spraying the field with PGRs, keeping the thing locked down and slowed down as much as we can, as far as just to alleviate that time we'd be spending on just mowing, quite frankly. You know, mowing every day. I think right now we've been mowing about once weekly. And then if we do any cultural practices like our verticutting, we're probably mixing second mowing during the week. But that's been the big challenge, is kind of how to slow the place down so that we're not having to spend a lot of our labor hours physically keeping the place mowed and cut and in order as far as that goes. Beyond that, though, our dirt surfaces and everything, we're pretty much ready to go. As we're in pretty good shape about the middle of March as far as all that went. So from my standpoint, we're, like you said, we've been ready to go. Our cultural practices aren't majorly affected, but more or less everything else around the building has been affected.
Matt, you're a little farther south and with a different kind of grass down there. How's the Bermuda holding up in May?
So we're doing fantastic right now. This is obviously a little bit of an anomaly for us. We were 100% open. We had played our first college game, was an ACC game, played with an ACC team, played on March the 10th. And immediately following, I think 2 days following that is actually when colleges started to actually Duke played at our place, and they actually closed their campus the following day. So it was kind of a trickle-down effect. We were waiting to see what was going on. And within the week, everything was pretty much shut down. So we went from being open to being closed, which means that for the foreseeable future. So we ended up removing all of our conditioner off of our skinned areas. We had brought in the bulk of our fertility, things that we needed to play baseball, on early order. So when everything happened, we went into basically a spending freeze. And that immediately required us to shift gears in terms of how we were going to maintain the field. Our field was scheduled for a full field renovation at the end of the 2020 season. I was told that was not going to be happening at this point. So basically what we did is we just really started trying to figure out ways that we could minimize inputs while getting super aggressive culturally. So we sprayed our ryegrass out on March the 18th. Very quickly sprayed a growth regulator, and we have pulled cores, full field pull cores twice, full field verticut twice, and we have done 3 full field solid times. So everything that we are doing is really focused just toward agronomics at this point. A lot of the foliar products that we bring in, they obviously serve a purpose, but at the same time, they're very aesthetic driven. So we've actually extended out our last foliar spray was 32 days ago. That's where we're at.
Andy, how about you? Now, I know you said you're on a spending freeze, but have you been able to get out and do anything above and beyond or what you would normally be doing this time of year?
Well, actually, from my standpoint, it's working out really well for me because we usually start playing while I'm still pretty dormant with Kentucky Bluegrass. But now we're able to play. So for the first time ever, I've actually been able to pull cores in the spring, which I've never been able to do. So fortunately, my board has allowed me to buy a nice aerator. So we've been running that quite a bit this spring, which I've never been able to do, which has been real exciting for me. My board of directors does not quite understand cultural practices at its best. So when I tried to explain that I wanted some PGR spraying to help me with mowing, all they hear is spraying and hear dollar signs. And I tried to explain to them how much it would cost and save me time, but they weren't for it. So, so aerating, mowing, since I can't spray anything, I've raised my height of cut from about 1.25 to about 2.5 inches right now, and gone from real mowers to rotary mowers. So we're just sitting on ZTRs and going through the complex that way. And another thing that I've been able to do this spring, which I've never been able to do, is laser grade. So I've got a nice supply of dirt on my complex, and we've been filling in some low spots, and was able to get a grader out and do that. So myself as well, I think somebody mentioned earlier, maybe it was Steve, conditioner. We have all our conditioners sitting. We did not put any conditioner on our fields, fortunately. We were shut down about 2 weeks before our season started, maybe about a week, and we were just about ready to dump it all on there. And fortunately, I did not have to do that. So they're all sitting in bags still and waiting for me. So that's kind of where we're at from our standpoint.
Okay. Back to another question for all three of you. How is your respective front office or administrative team, and Andy, you've been talking about that, how are they working with you, or maybe in some cases working against you during this period of time, as far as communication, what you're hearing, what they're telling you? Is there clear-cut guidelines, or Matt, you said it, that you're doing what you need to do? Are they letting you do it? Steve, you can go first. He's muted.
From a spending standpoint here, we've had no hard freeze on anything in our labor. So the front office has been really supportive. If we need sand for top dressing, if we're going to purchase chemicals for our foliar applications, there's been no hard spending freeze on any of that. I will say, as far as our front office goes, they've been really forward thinking for the group. We've pushed most people to work from home. So in the building, I would say the last 40 days, there's been no more than about 15 to 20 people total working in our building across all the departments. So as far as that goes, they've taken a lot of folks out of the building to lower our chances for who they deem essential staff of getting and passing anything around here. We've instituted temperature checks for all staff when they come into the building, so everybody gets checked. With the temporal thermometer, we've instituted the fun face mask that everyone's becoming used to. So it's been a mandate by the ballpark to have anybody who's in there that works for the Reds had to wear one, I think, starting 3 weeks ago. This past Monday, we instituted that so that any contractor who's on site has to wear a mask of some sort that they will self-provide. So from the health standpoint, our front office has been real supportive on making sure that the folks that are down here are not opening our exposure up to anything that we don't think we should be. They've really had lean on senior management to lean on their lower groups to say, hey, if you are not essential, you do not need to be in this building, which has been great from that standpoint. And then, I would say via Zoom, my department has been meeting twice weekly, as well as then once a week we have a full front office Zoom call for the 250 plus people in our front office, in which we're updated by our team president both on anything that they have for prospects of potentially getting baseball going, anything HR related that our club's working on, any changes that we're making to policies, and any planning we're doing going forward. I think the last 2 weeks we've instituted twice weekly meetings with different groups across both our facility, our group facility in Arizona, as well as our Urban Youth Academy, to really start a restart plan for our organization. I would say beyond that, within the state of Ohio, a lot of folks have been allowed to go back to work, go back to their offices. I think started last Monday. Our administrative team basically said, if you do not need to be at the stadium, as long as we're not playing baseball, we're all working, more than efficiently for the folks who are working from home. Let's not stop that now. So we're gonna keep that moving at least until the end of May. I think the state of Ohio technically has still extended our lockdown through the end of May, but they're really trying to get a lot of businesses and stuff back open around here. But our front office has been very proactive to say, stay at home, keep working efficiently. Don't kind of go back on all the goodwill we've built so far in the last 45 days. So realistically, I have no complaints from what my administrative team or what our front office has been asking of us. We've done a couple of commercial shoots that have been very small, very with using our in-house team on that. So it's been very minimal. And then, we've been working our best we can on rescheduling special events and those kinds of things down the line with obviously no definite timeline in order. So we're trying to get proactive and be ahead of that curve for when things finally do fully lift and folks want to do things on the field again, baseball or otherwise.
Maddie, how's your relationship with your front office folks?
Yeah, about the same thing. I mean, ours has been, I don't know if it's because I'm at the ballpark every day and they're at the ballpark, but the communication has, from my standpoint, it's been very good. Obviously at the level that we're at, the information that we get is basically what you get in the news, in regards to baseball. We obviously, are at the discretion of Major League Baseball. And I think it's naive to think that minor league baseball would start back before Major League Baseball would. So we're just kind of taking it a day at a time, looking at a lot of what ifs, in terms of, if there's an extended period without baseball moving forward, like I said, how we move forward with that and utilizing the facility. There's been a lot of talk with our special events department and upper level management about how we do that and kind of what the future looks like. But in terms of it changes daily just based on the information that you get. I know that our management staff is in contact with the White Sox on a weekly basis, if not more often. And then as a staff, we do the same thing with the Zoom meetings, full staff meetings still once a week, and so forth. So as much information as they've had, they've disseminated.
Andy, what about you? You said that, you're trying to get some PGRs and they don't really understand what that means, but is communication been more important for you during this time, or are you just still trying to educate at the amateur level? A lot of times people don't know about what you're trying to do out there.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest battle that I've got right now is just trying to understand that grass doesn't know COVID's going on. So, we still need people to show up and help out. And The volunteers, we don't have our crew at all, right? So we can't pay for them. So it's just getting people to show up and give me an hour. I even offered a lot of stay at the e-learning. I offered PE out at my complex, just trying to get people to show up out there if moms are tired of the kids being around the house and have plenty of jobs to do for them. But I'm on the board. We're part of those decision making. We are all scrambling at trying to figure out what we're going to do when our state opens up. We're pretty tight lockdown right now, and if we scrap our season completely, that could have some significant impacts to us, obviously. If we open up, we're talking about increasing our schedule, adding an extra game every day. So we'll be playing 12 to 14 games a day on my fields. So what does that do to me and so forth? So just a lot of what if scenarios right now, just waiting to find out what we're going to do from our state standpoint as well. So anytime they ask me, I say the grass is still growing. I'm all grass and dirt. Just let me know if you need something to do. So
last question I had prepared, and then we'll get into some of the other questions that have been written in or called in or whatever the case may be. So gentlemen, the grind is different these days. No night games, no long weekend games. What's that look for you in your life, your April and your May? It's been different. Well, I know mine's been different than any April and May I've had in the last 14 years since I've been doing this. So what has that meant to you individually in your lives, and what are you looking forward to the most?
So on my end of things, I would say the no grind situation has been different for sure. I think my wife's really appreciating it as we welcomed our second child in January. So it's been nice having a little extra help at the house for her to start the season, or in this case, not start it. But no, you nailed it, Keith. We're all used to coming to work every day, especially from a lot of us. March to October is pretty hectic, pretty full. So it's been different for sure. It's been nice having an adjusted schedule. It's more normalized to what the rest of the workforce in America likes to call normal. But yeah, I think it's taxing for a lot of us too, because we're not used to it. We're not used to having the amount of free time that we do right now. So I think for, one of the things I've kind of pushed my staff to do is, take up a hobby, find something that you feel that betters you, whether it's something you're doing on site, that you're picking up because you have the ability to learn how to weld while you're here at the stadium, or something else along those lines. But we're trying to find things to keep us busy. And again, that goes for projects too at the stadium that might not be finished. Our guys are working on, I know Derek and I sat on a lift this afternoon for about 3 hours stringing nets in a very far corner of the ballpark for a kids fan zone netting area, but doing side projects and stuff like that in the stadium here, just to change and give us something that's different, but there might be an opportunity to learn, make ourselves better on something. I think for a lot of folks, it's been very welcomed this spring not to be playing games on their field. I think there's a lot of us who get in that grind from year to year and don't have the opportunity to catch up on a number of things around their ballpark or their stadium. So it's helping us to reprioritize or spend some time on those things that might get looked over from year to year, both with our family and both with work. So from my standpoint, it's been nice so far. I would say the difference for me is trying to keep our staff's hopes up, keep everybody engaged, keep everybody on track, that knowing we're going to play baseball again. But we're going to be playing it, at some point this season. And so that we do know at some point here when baseball comes back, we're all ready to fire on all cylinders.
Matt, is the Parrott women tired of you yet?
Yes, I think so. No, I mean, it's still a grind, Keith. It's just it's a much different grind, I guess. I think the thing that I've taken away from everything that's going on is I would say that I've had trouble over the years, especially since my kids have been born, separating that work life that STMA has been promoting for so long, and trying to figure out what that is. And I guess the one positive for me that's come out of this is getting to experience a time of year with my family that I just don't normally get to experience. And we're fortunate because in Charlotte, the weather's been really nice. And so we get to do a lot of stuff as a family in the evenings that we wouldn't be able to do if we had a baseball season going on. But, you know, with my wife working from home and having two kids at home and trying to balance that has played into my work schedule and trying to stay around in the mornings to help her out so that she can get her work done. And then I typically come in a little bit later. And then of course having to come in some on the weekends and stuff too. So there's definitely been a lot of downtime that we wouldn't normally have, but it has really required an adjustment. Not just losing staff, but having to focus on the important things at work and come in with a purpose and you know, get in and get out as quick as you can while still trying to maintain the quality that the people you work for have come to expect. So it's a different grind, I would say, all in all.
Andy, how about for you? Is your life a lot different than it would be if there were games going on at your facility every night?
Pretty much so. It's the nice thing is I can go out whenever I need to, right? So I don't have to work around games. So not having a crew has increased my time out there, but the flexibility of being able to go out whenever I need to has been kind of nice on that end. So from that standpoint, and then my wife's home to-do list has grown dramatically, which I've noticed. So I kind of have found out that I've got to finish something at home in order for me to leave the house. So my list is long. I get something done, I get a pat on the back, and I can take off and head to the ballpark. So it's working well for us at this point in time. So.
Moving on, guys, to a couple questions, guys and ladies, to a couple questions that have been sent in, and there's been a little bit of chat going on. A lot of you are probably following this. In terms of skin maintenance, questions come up, you know, conditioner or no conditioner, water. Brother Sukup said he's put his growth blankets on his infield to hold some moisture in and just try to keep things in place. And you guys can speak up, or if there's other people that are on here, and Kristen can hopefully let them in if they need to talk. But skin maintenance is a big thing because when you're not playing games, you let it sit. Do you keep it wet? Do you soak it? Have some people put on conditioner? You guys can just sort of speak as you see fit. How about at the major league level, Steve? You know, what have you guys done? And Maddie, and I know, Andy, you already said that you didn't put conditioner down in your field. So, and if anybody else wants to chime in on this, raise your hand, or the raise your hand icon, and Kristen can let you in if you have anything that is poignant to include in our discussion.
So over here at Great American, we did not get to dressing our infield. We were about a week out on tarp practice, which we typically do our tarp practice and then put our first dressing on about 10 to 12 days out on opening day. So luckily we didn't have it out there because I feel just like, you know, a lot of folks have said, they would have cleaned it right back off. So we've stayed minimally dressed with anything that's kind of settled back out of our mix. I would say probably once a week when we're not under the fun Seattle-like rainfall we get here in Cincinnati. We've tried to get out there and just drag the place off or get it compressed back in a little bit, just kind of in between rain showers. So I'd say we're dragging no more than about one time a week, really as necessary. We're edging about once weekly, and then trying to get our edges cleaned out just real gently, you know, just right around when we're edging. More or less, you know, trying to, like you're probably going to think, you know, keeping it from getting wind blown, keeping anything from moving around that would cause bigger problems with lips down the line.
Matt, and you can throw in too, somebody just chatted on there about mounds and bullpens and home plate areas that are tarped consistently. The question was in terms of moisture, what do you, and especially down there with you where it's warmer and you get more sunshine than we do up north here, what are you doing with your bullpens and with your mound and your plate area as well as your skin?
I have a question, sir.
So Keith, we're I'm in a unique situation here in Charlotte because like I said, we got it all ready to play for our first college game, and then immediately ended up stripping everything off. from our infield. But something that our management wanted done as a tribute to the healthcare workers in Charlotte. If you've seen our ballpark, it's behind me. The city overlooks it. We actually put lights out on our infield that said "We Heart CLT" to honor our healthcare workers in Charlotte. And those lights have been out since, March 20th. And so I have been able to do absolutely nothing on my skin. And it shows. I mean, we were laser graded, we were ready to go. But as time has gone on, we've battled, not being able to keep moisture in it. This is our windy time of the year. So the biggest thing that we've been able to do is once weekly, I'm going out and blowing edges to keep the particles that have blown and migrated into our grass edges. The hope is that those lights will come off on Friday after our stay at home is lifted. But that has been the biggest challenge for me, is to not be able to get on my dirt. In terms of our mound and our plate, we were fortunate in that we had only played one game on them. Everything was sloped out, ready to go for our season. We played one game. We were able to get the repairs done on it. And
so from my standpoint, let me jump in real quick about infield skin and stuff from my standpoint. And mounds, we're talking about mounds. I only cover my game mounds. I have not looked underneath them. I'm afraid to. So I've just let them sit. I've taken a roller over them a couple times just to kind of pack them down when I can. But if you look behind me, that's my stadium. And you can see the tremendous terrain I have about me. I think you got about a 10.5 mile view there behind me. So our wind is ridiculous out there. So my edges too are a constant battle for me. I take a backpack blower to them frequently. I've got a sweep on the back of or on top of an Echo edger. So I'm constantly working on my edges, and another huge thankful that I didn't have any of my conditioner down yet. So yeah, that's, and I'm too am working about once a week on dragging. Weeds are getting bad. We're going to have a big weed pulling party on our infield just from some of the buildup that's taken place in some of our fields. So that's kind of where I'm at with the infield skin and mounds.
Another question that came in, and you guys have all kind of touched on it, as far as with no events and no baseball games, whether that's at the professional level or the amateur level, what do you see as the necessary maintenance with no events going on? Maybe the 3 or 4 key things. I think everybody sort of touched on, and mowing and edging. Is there anything else that you've been doing as far as warning track work or anything just to keep your facility from getting too far behind? Because when there are no games and there is no play, our priorities obviously change. So what are you guys all doing, or what are the 3 or 4 top things that you're doing? And a lot of those have already been mentioned.
Yeah, Keith, I think you nailed it. A lot of them have been mentioned. Like I said, on our dirt end of things, we would have scraped the dirt conditioner off first and foremost if we were deciding not to play at this, or if we had addressed and been not playing at this point. So I would recommend that one. Obviously, we're spending a lot of time mowing. So in our case, the PGR applications has been huge for us, just to give myself and my first assistant some chances to get other projects done around the stadium. But really, as far as anything else goes, we had our mounds done already. We had our warning track in shape. We're dragging the warning track, probably just like the dirt about once a week, and really around our edging schedule, just to keep some of that stuff away from the edges, keep it trued back up. And then I think other than that, our biggest piece here, at least in the Midwest for me, has been managing our moisture on the grass. This is the time of year where a lot of times I feel like people push the trigger on trying to water because they think they need it on a day here or there. I use a moisture meter to check our moisture content in the soil, and not playing games, not putting tarps over our whole infield and sideline areas at times where you feel like you force yourself into hand watering stuff that doesn't need it. It's been really, really advantageous to us just to get a good grasp, good firm idea on what's going on with our soil moisture. and really keeping that irrigation box off as often as we can, so we're not overwatering anything. That's been a big piece that we're kind of keeping a track on really closely this spring.
Matt, anything else that in terms of things that the main things that you're doing? And again, when you're a one-man crew, you only have time to do so much.
Yeah. So basically, I've taken on the premise that I want us to be 2 weeks from being ready to play at the level that we would be playing at in our season. So through all of this, I've kind of had that 10 to 14 day window. You know, I spoke earlier about the reality is that we have to get some more longevity out of this field. And so with the utilization of growth regulators, that's enabled us to reduce our mowing dramatically. Well, what can we do in that period of time? Core aerate, verticut, and lower mowing heights. So like you said, Keith, we are 419 on our outfield here, latitude on our infield. And since we sprayed out our ryegrass, we've been maintaining it at 3/8 of an inch to try to promote that lateral growth, while at the same time utilizing verticutting to keep it thinned out and reduce thatch overall and start pulling organic. With our core aerifications, we are not dragging cores in. We core and we sweep to remove as much organic as we can each time that we do aerifications. With the spending freeze, top dressing sand is not an option right now. So if those holes are going to stay opened up, it makes it more, you know, even that more important to be monitoring the moisture that you have and utilizing tools that you may have in terms of wetting agents to help you with that. So that's been our focus. In regards to edging, we're still edging our infield on a weekly basis, but the warning track will push out to 2 weeks and just zip it with a quick edge, and that's a day spent doing that. So I think it all has to do with what your priorities are. If you can use this time to make some improvements that may not affect immediate playability, but the lifespan of your field, now's the time to do it because you don't have anybody on these fields. So that's the way that we're addressing it here. Like I said, trying to stay 10 to 14 days out from being ready to play at the level that we normally do. So.
Another good question was written in, and this individual said that he's taken over a high school field, taking care of doing the groundskeeper duties from the school district. And he wanted to know from you gentlemen 2 or 3 things that he could do to make the field the best it could be with limited time and limited resources. I can speak on this one if you wish, because that's how I sort of got started in this profession, taking care of my kids' fields. But my 4 big ones were always, if it's not edge it out, kill the weeds, add some fertility to your turf if you can, and try to get the thing mowed with sharp blades and change your mowing directions. If you do those 4 things, you can take any field around the country and probably make it better. Other suggestions that you guys might have in terms of things that you can do with low budget and just a little bit of time.
Well, I'll jump in here too, Keith. I appreciate it because that's exactly how I got started too. And I would say mowing. It's an epidemic around here. Is once a week mowing on high school fields just doesn't cut it, especially right now with how fast everything's growing. So that's always my first thing. And edging's that subtle difference that people don't notice, but they notice. Even if it's the backstop warning track, where fans are sitting for high school games is a big deal to me. So I'm right there with you on all those 2 things. And then the last thing that I would add is if you can get an aeration in there, usually trying to pull some cores in the fall. Our seasons are spring here. So in the fall or right as soon as season's done, that's always my advice to give.
Matt or Steve?
Yeah, on our end, I'd agree with all your points, Keith. We just took over our Reds Youth Academy this fall. Gonna say it was not in really great shape when we took it on, and so I mean, one of the things, just to echo you on that one, yeah, knock your weeds out when you can, get them back under control. And I always tell people, you can spend bad money buying really bad seed. So investing your little bit of money you have in good seed goes a long way. So that's one of the things we did was, like Andy said, we didn't have the opportunity to aerate it this spring, but we got a good slit seed in really in February here on a good week, and just the addition of a good quality seed, getting some good, your basic maintenance, like you said, mowing, covering your weeds really makes a difference. As you get, we've only been under control of the academy now for I think 2.5 months, and it's come a long way in a short period of time, just doing those simple things.
Matt, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say, and these guys hit on it, but if you're walking onto a field for the first time, just go through your checklist: safety, playability, and aesthetics. Address safety first, so that can be edging your lips that have built up. Get those things taken care of, and once you get those taken care of, and you have a set of eyes on it on a regular basis, then the aesthetics come, and the playability. So prioritize, do what you can, and it should turn out really well.
Another question, and I think, Matt, you spoke of it a little bit. Somebody wondered, what kind of events other than baseball are your organizations planning or discussing that will generate revenue? Because the reality is there may not be games, or there's not going to be as many of them. Have there been discussions in your organizations about other ways and other things you can do to use the field to generate revenue?
So over here in Cincinnati, our first priority is getting all of our corporate events and folks who have lost events rescheduled for the year. Obviously, the stay-at-home orders are going to lift in most of these states prior to probably baseball getting going. So I foresee us doing somewhat of a push on a lot of those events, as soon as our stay-at-home order lifts. But in reality, some of that stuff's going to get rescheduled further down the line. It could get rescheduled deep into the fall, and do I think people are going to probably add some more events on to try to make some extra money? Absolutely. I know at our youth academy standpoint, we've gone from only hosting a spring and summer leagues, and typically been done with about 80% of their outdoor play by August 15th. We're already in the process of scheduling a full slate of games through December 15th. So the reality of it is we're going to play as long as we can out there, just to really reschedule summer tournaments that are lost, for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we're going to reschedule a lot of that stuff as far as our academy programming that traditionally would have ended when kids went back to school. And I don't see that being a ton different at any facilities, whether professional or otherwise. I think a lot of folks are going to be looking for a way to make some money, make up for some of those lost revenues this spring and this summer, depending on how long it goes for, no doubt.
Matt, any fun and games planned for Charlotte?
Yeah, so we've just started the process of bouncing some ideas. Historically, we have not been a facility that hosts any high school or showcase type baseball events. It's amazing the requests that have come in just in the last week for those type of events later in the summer. So we are investigating those. Obviously, any corporate events take priority, either making those up or new business through corporate events. There have been some ideas floated of, depending on what the local municipalities and the states do regarding, be it graduation ceremonies or stuff like that. I don't know if any traction is made on those type of events. And then, of course, we are also scheduled to be a host facility for some events this year for the Republican National Convention. So if that still plays out and ends up coming to Charlotte and Mecklenburg County allows them to go forward with that, then we're holding out hope that those events that we have will continue to file into the ballpark. So some of the stuff that we're looking at here.
Andy, what if you don't play baseball at your facility? Is there anything else that's been discussed, or again, I'm sure hopefully that in the youth side of it, that games will resume?
Yeah, it's been an interesting. Well, with 9 inches of rain in the last 10 days, we're about to start holding rowing events out at our camp points. So from a social distancing standpoint. But man, it's been wet. It's funny you talked about showcase events. We normally host 2 to 3 huge showcase events, but we're more concerned about our public image here in town, that we're talking about canceling those to make sure that we take care of our in-house players, our in-house program. So canceling those showcase events, which is a source of income to us, but then allowing our kids to play more in-house baseball. So that's kind of our big discussion. Actually, this morning we were talking about that. But other than that, we don't have any other way of bringing in any sort of money towards our complex other than those tournaments.
Got a little over 5 minutes left. We do have a special guest and need to introduce him so everyone can see the wicked stash that he's sporting right now. Luke Yoder is with us too, representing Dura Edge. Luke, you've been listening to this, and especially when you're talking about skin maintenance and a lot of the other things that have come up. What can you tell us from a commercial perspective of what your world looks like with no professional or really no amateur baseball being played right now?
Well, exactly what we're doing here, Keith. I've been learned a lot about this Zoom thing and had some hiccups here and there like we did, but it's getting better every time. And I think whether we like it or not, I think this is going to be part of the future for the next year, 2 years, maybe more. So we're doing a lot of education, supporting partners and customers with these types of meetings just to get discussion going. We're doing, education on this type of front. But I see moving forward that there'll be quite a bit of this instead of visits, quite a bit of this, and there'll be less travel. It's not going to bounce back overnight. So I think participating in this type of Zoom meeting or team meetings or anything like that is going to help a lot moving forward for all of us. It's just been more of an approach of reaching out and asking how people are doing, relationships that we have across the country, like everybody here, just, checking in and getting different ideas. We're all in this together. There's some industries that are making money off this. There's a few that are maybe neutral, but there's no doubt about it that our industry is being hit very hard right now. So, we're all in this together, and it's something that we've been reaching out and trying to stay connected in this way, if you will. So this is what we've been doing every day for the last month and a half. And we have another one later today and more tomorrow. So it's great to see everybody. And it's, it's part of the benefits of doing this type of stuff. You get to get in front of a lot more faces and check-ins.
Luke, you mentioned that, and this is sort of maybe our last question as we're trying to wrap up here in about an hour. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. Minor leagues, there's been a lot of discussion about the fact that there may not be a season. With major leagues, as they become, put their plans together and as states release themselves, it's just, nobody knows. And I think there's probably going to be just weeks of notice before we get into a situation where we know whether our seasons are canceled or whether they're going to continue in whatever the case may be. But when we get back to that, whether that's this year or next year, and this will be directed again to our panelists, what is that? Have you lost people already? And if you have, or if your staff is furloughed, what are those departures going to mean to your organization? I mean, we have furloughed, Fort Wayne Tincaps have furloughed everybody. There's some people working on a week a month, which is what I'm doing. Some are working on 2 weeks a month, but about 30 of our 38 full-time people have been furloughed. And if there's no season, that'll probably run through January or February of next year. So how many of them are going to be back, and how many of them are going to be back in your individual organizations? How do we address that as sports turf managers, whether we have to rehire our full-time people or trying to get part-time people or interns or game day staff back interested in this with the threat ongoing? What are some of your closing thoughts or comments on that topic, gentlemen?
I'll lead off. This has been, I know you covered a lot there, Keith. So far, we've had no one furloughed at the Reds. We've had no salary reductions in place. I think there's a couple of teams around the league that have already started that kind of thing. So yeah, I think you're right on the track of, I can't see a lot of groups either at the major league level or at the minor league level being able to withstand this for a full year and not expect their staff to take a hit on it one way or the other. I mean, it's a great challenge to have to get those folks back, depending on whether you're playing in the near future or whether you're playing, in seasons following. But one of the things that's hit me the hardest is, I take our internship program here very seriously, and it's the mentorship portion of this industry is really the lifeblood of it to me. So it's been really tough this year, knowing that I had to cancel 7 kids' shot at coming to work at our stadium this season. And how does that hurt our development as a group of sports turf managers going forward? Obviously there's a lot of folks who have had the opportunity probably to go home and stay at their folks' house and find a golf course they can get on for some limited hours as things open up. I think for a lot of us, there's that great worry that the golf course industry will rebound with labor faster than ours. There's like I've told a couple other folks, there's no great answers to that. But that to me has been the hardest hit for me this year, is personally not being able to help build folks' careers. At the baseline of when these kids are in college and they're wanting to get an experience with the major league team and not being able to offer that this year. Those are going to be the downstream effects that are going to be tough for our industry to face for years ahead, no doubt.
Matthew?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Stephen just said. This was the first year that we had been able to offer a second full-time salary position to an assistant. We had to withdraw that offer. I don't see us in a position moving forward. It's taken me 5 years being in Charlotte to get that position. I don't see that position coming back. My assistant who was laid off, I've told this story to a couple guys on this call, but he placed 4 phone calls and had a job within 6 hours. He was one of the fortunate ones, but that job was in the golf industry. He's not coming back. Our seasonal hourly staff, for most of those people, for us, it is a second job for them, or it was a second job for them, just because they enjoyed being out here. The other portion of those, so it wasn't a second job. They were college students at one of the local universities, or a couple of the local universities. So, they were in a position that they had no dreams of going into this for a career. But the reality of the situation is they're going to age out. They're going to move on with their lives. And I think from where we take a hit, maybe not an intern situation per se, but the new hourly employees that we bring in, they learn so much from the hourly employees who are returning. And so there's still that gap that I think that we're going to face here in Charlotte. But, hold out hope that the assistant position is rehired. The later this goes on in this season, I think that we'll end up relying more on hourly help. But the goal is by next baseball season to be right back where we were from a staffing level, not just in our department, but the organization as a whole. So anybody's guess is mine.
Yeah, my guys are all seasonal, right? So the high school, college kids, they were looking forward to earning some spending money. Their parents were looking forward to them earning some spending money. And unfortunately, that's, I'm cutting into their hours now. A lot of them, 3 of my guys are doing Uber Eats and Instacart right now and making some great money with all the stay-at-home stuff. So that's going well for them. And one guy left for another opportunity. I'm usually turning away people left and right, trying to get in there and work. So I'm not horribly concerned about it. It's no career impacted on it, which is kind of nice. It's just more time on my part to retrain some people. But I feel pretty good where we're sitting. I just feel bad for the kids because they aren't earning the money that they could be. So,
right. Well, folks, we're over an hour here, so we're going to wrap it up. The future is unknown, and that is the one thing that we know. And change is always something we can count on. So we thank everybody for participating, especially our panelists and Luke for joining in. We also want to thank the STMA Technology Committee, who's been responsible for putting all this together. and as well as Kristen Althouse and Kim Heck from STMA headquarters. There'll be another town hall meeting next Tuesday on May the 12th. That'll be again at 3 p.m. That will be on the topic of agronomics, and it will feature the following panelists: Dr. Grady Miller from North Carolina State, Pam Sherratt from Ohio State, Dr. John Sorokin from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and also Dr. Chase Strahl from Texas A&M. So you can look for details on that one and the other future town halls on the STMA website at stma.org. You can get on social media at Field Experts, and also check your email box, as they've been great on getting the word out. So again, thanks to everybody for participating. Hope you all stay safe and stay healthy, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Keith.